Hello, and welcome to this overview of WeatherTRAK Mobile version 3.1.4. Let's open up the app and I'll show you a few of the new features. If you manage Optiflow-enabled controllers, then this first feature is something you'll find extremely useful. I'm going to choose an Optiflow site from the list of sites I have access to, which happens to have 4 Optiflow controllers. I'll choose the East controller, and then I'm going to navigate over to the Multiple tab at the top. And if you look down at the bottom left corner of the screen, you're going to notice 2 new icon buttons. This represents Stacked and Overlap. Stacked mode means that one station runs after another. Station 1 runs, then Station 2, then Station 3, etc. Overlap mode means that the selected stations run at the same time, simultaneously. Now, all controllers have limitations as to how many station valves they can run at one time. WeatherTRAK controllers come with a powerful transformer, but with that transformer there are still limitations, and so we've given you a generous allowance of up to 9 stations that can run simultaneously. You can reference this system capacity bar, so as you're adding stations, as we'll do in a moment, it helps you keep count so you can stay at or under that 9 station allowance. I'm going to select 6 different stations. And as you'll notice as I'm selecting them, the system capacity bar is keeping count. So I have selected now 6 of 9 available stations. Now, because of the default timer, all of the stations I selected will run for 1 minute. But I'm going to go through this list of stations and change the times. So I'm just simply selecting the time itself associated to each station, which will give me a list, and I can choose a different runtime. And I'm going to go through this list of 6 stations and just choose a random different time for this example. And I'll wrap it up with station 13. Now, as you'd expect, if I hit start all 6 stations are now going to start and run simultaneously, but each at their individual selected runtime. Now that everything is up and running, you'll notice there are individual stop buttons to the right of every station bar. But we're going to stop all the stations by pressing the Stop All button. If your site has a lot of controllers and you have a lot of stations that you plan on operating at one time on those controllers, that might be a little difficult to manage. But we've got you covered because we're introducing the Currently Watering Overview page. And the good news is this works with all WeatherTRAK controllers. Let me show you how it works. I'm going to go back to a controller. I'm going to choose 3 stations, but what I'm going to do first is go change the default timer to 4 minutes, then come back and select 3 stations and switch it over into the overlap mode. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to hit start all. And while that's happening, I'm going to go over to another controller down here in my controller list. I'll pick West, and I'm going to go and select 4 stations. Just for this example, I'll make them random. I'll choose the station and a couple more. I'm going to switch over to overlap mode down at the bottom. I'm going to hit next. I'm going to hit start all. I'm going to return to the controller page where I see the list of the controllers on this site, and you might have already noticed the currently watering bar that's appeared, showing us that we have 7 stations that are running. Now, if I were to touch that, it's going to take me to the currently watering overview page where I can see the stations we just started. We see how long they have left. You can even see that there are individual stop buttons for each of the controllers or the stations. Extremely useful. So to take it a step further, I went to another controller and added a few more stations. You'll see them coming online here on the screen. If I go to the currently watering overview page now, all 10 stations are reflected. 3 different controllers with 10 total stations operating at various times, counting down. I think you'll find this extremely useful, and it's just a great way of knowing and managing what's operating at any given moment on your site. This next feature will benefit everyone, and it has to do with the stacked mode. I'm going to pull up a controller, and I'm going to bring up the list of stations, and then I'm switch over to multiple. You're going to notice that the stacked and overlap icons that I just covered a little bit ago aren't present here, and that's because this is not an Optiflow enabled controller, but that's okay because this feature benefits everyone. What I'm going to do is select 4 stations, hit next, where I get a list of those selected stations, but let's say I'm not happy with the order. Now I can simply take a station, hold it, and drag it into a new position in the list. I can rearrange this list, get it in an order that I think would be best if I'm doing a wet check and walking a property. Then I can hit start and it will then follow the order that we have just set. This is an extremely handy feature that a lot of users have been asking for. The last 2 features are improvements to Sitemap that we introduced earlier in the year. Sitemap has become a big success because customers love the ability to place assets on a site to represent things like control valves or valve boxes, splice boxes, etc. And then over time kind of assemble this virtual as-built of the site and the system and elements that kind of make that up. And one of the features we added was this ability to mark the station location, which we know can be different than the station valve location on a site. I'll go ahead and select one here. Now, station location assets are assigned to a station valve or a station on the controller. And by placing a station location asset, you're just identifying where to expect watering to occur. So while doing a wet check, it makes sense that you should be able to select a station location asset and be able to start and stop the station from the asset itself. And because you're looking at a map, you know exactly where you are in relation to where the watering should occur. So what's new in version 3.1.4, as you'll see as I select this station location asset, that we've added a row of images, so you can take and store images of the station. Also, we have a timer now associated to the start button. So if you wanted to run that specific zone for a certain amount of time, you can select that timer, choose a new time, press start, and the station will run for the amount of time that you have chosen. So this next feature will be helpful when placing a new asset onto a sitemap that already has a lot of assets, like the one you're seeing here. Let's place a isolation valve asset on the map, and you'll see at the top left corner of the screen now, there's a show all, hide all button. Now, as I'm holding and dragging the asset around the map, I have the ability to go and hide or show all of the neighboring assets on the map, as you can see here, which can make it easier to place assets in a more congested area. That's it for today, but we have a list of exciting features that we're working on. So thank you so much for watching, and thanks for being WeatherTRAK mobile users, and we'll see you next time.